Today we're going to start our discussion of human anatomy and physiology. And we have to start out with some general statements and some general definitions so that you get a nice overview of what we're going to talk about. The second half of this lecture will be a review because the book reviews a lot of the information regarding cellular structure and organelles, and so I thought I would review that. This material is fair game for a quiz or test in this section as well as previously. First of all, the definition of anatomy is the study of the structure of the body, and in this case we'll be studying the structure of the human body. How the building is put together would be a very nice way of thinking about the study of anatomy. Physiology, on the other hand, is how the body works, how the parts of the body function together, how each functions independently, and then how those independent functions work together to keep the organism alive and intact. Embryology, which we may mention a little bit in the fourth quarter, is the study of development of the human organism from conception through the first 8 weeks. Beyond the first 8 weeks, it's usually thought that the part is then called developmental anatomy. Systemic anatomy is how we're going to approach our study of the human body in the remainder of this course. The way that is we will look at each separate system, and we'll discuss what that means in just a minute, and go through system by system, learning about how each system is put together, or the anatomy of each system, and then also how each system works and how it works together, the physiology of that system. Now let's just take a look for a minute at the study of anatomy and see that there's various approaches to the study of anatomy we can take. First of all, we can look at what we can see without any help. This is the macroscopic structure, macro meaning large or easy to see, and studying what you can see without any intervention is called gross anatomy. And indeed, in my medical school experience and in every student's medical school experience, when they go to medical school, there's a class on gross anatomy. Microscopic anatomy, and I had a separate course on microscopic anatomy, studies structures that require a microscope to be able to observe. And so in this picture, if you look at this picture, the top is a stomach, and this would be something that you could see with the unaided eye, so this would be part of the study of gross anatomy, whereas on the bottom is a microscopic pictogram of the lining of the stomach, and you could not see this without help. And so the study of this structure, the surface structure here, the blood vessels here, the muscular structure here, this would all be considered part of the study of microscopic anatomy. Now, if you look at the anatomy and compare the anatomy across species, then the study is called comparative anatomy. And this is not part of medical school teaching. It is frequently part of biology teaching at the college level. Now, when we start talking about the organization into systems, first of all, we have to define what a system is. An organ system is a group of organs that are grouped together and function together to perform a specific function. Now, an organ is a collection of tissues that work together to perform a particular function, and a tissue is a collection of particular cells that are grouped together to perform a function. And so in general, the functional definition of each of these steps is necessary in order to bring about what we're talking about. So an organ system is the functional grouping of organs together when they have a common purpose. On the left here, we have the skeletal system, or the skeletal organ system. It is composed of bone and cartilage. This is not the entirety of the skeletal system. I mean, obviously the arms and legs are not included, the skull is not included. So there are parts that are missing here. It also includes the joints, and this provides support and protection. And in providing support, it also makes it possible for motion. And so the skeletal system is a group of organs, in this case bone, cartilage, joints, etc., that provide the function of support and also the function of protection. The rib cage, for example, protects the heart and lungs, the skull protects the brain, etc. On the right here is the nervous system. The nervous system is the collection of brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves that are responsible for directing, sensing, and directing and controlling various functions, including motion as well as digestive functions, reproductive functions, etc. The brain is for lack of a better term, the major control center for most of the function of the body. On the left here, we have a picture of part of the circulatory system. The circulatory system is the heart and blood vessels. Also includes the blood, although some people speak of the blood separately from the other parts of the circulatory system. Its purpose is to transporting oxygen, waste, nutrients, and other chemicals throughout the body so that the oxygen can be delivered, the nutrients can be delivered to peripheral tissues, the waste products can be taken away from the peripheral tissues and dispelled, and other chemicals such as hormones can be delivered from one place to another. The respiratory system, which is not pictured here, is the lungs and airways, beginning at the upper airway all the way to the distal alveolus. We'll talk about this in detail in another group. Its responsibility is the exchange of gases at the lung level. There's an exchange of oxygen from the air into the circulatory system, and an exchange of the carbon dioxide from the circulatory system into the air, into the lungs to be dispelled. On the right here, we have a picture of the digestive system. Again, most of the digestive system is pretty well pictured here. It includes the stomach, intestines, liver, pancreas, etc. And its responsibility is the breakdown and absorption of food and nutrients into the body. Not pictured is the muscular system. In association with the skeletal system, one of the functions of the muscular system is to power movement. Now, another function of the muscular system is not in association with the skeleton. It involves the muscles that are within the walls of various organs, such as the stomach and intestines. It still is responsible for movement, but it transports materials along the lumen of various tubular structures so that the muscle will squeeze and empty the stomach, propelling food along the intestine and along the large intestine until it's dispelled. When you swallow, there's a muscular contraction that propels the food down the esophagus and into the stomach. There are certain muscular contractions that propel various materials through, say, the ureters into the bladder, from the bladder out through of the body during urination, etc. Now, not pictured in this diagram, but a very important system is the integumentary system. The integumentary system is the skin plus all associated appendages of the skin. By that I mean the hair, the sweat glands, etc. And the purpose of the integumentary system is to protect the body from infection. It's the first line of defense against the external world. It also helps the body maintain its water status and helps the body regulate body temperature. The lymphatic system, it houses the immune system and is made up of a cadre of organs and vessels. There are lymph vessels, there are lymph nodes. The spleen is a lymph organ and part of the lymphatic system, and all of these function to remove microorganisms from the body. They also are responsible to help remove foreign materials such as dust and particles that somehow get into the body from one way or another. And they're essentially charged with the function of keeping the blood and body clean from outside invaders. The urinary system, which is pictured on the left here, includes the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra, and it's responsible for filtering the blood, removing the waste products from the blood, soluble waste products from the blood, and then dispelling them until they are removed from the body. And then not pictured again, pictured on the right, is the endocrine system, which is composed of a vast number of various organs. You can see starting from the head, there's the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, and the pineal gland. Moving down into the neck, we have the parathyroid and thyroid glands. The thymus, which is really not an endocrine organ, it's much more likely to be considered a part of the lymphatic system. The adrenal glands and pancreas. The pancreas serves in two systems. It's actually part of the GI system as well as being part of the endocrine system. The endocrine part of this is the control of blood sugar. In women, the ovaries, and in men, the testes are responsible for the male and female sex organs and sex hormones. And then lastly, the reproductive system, which performs the function of producing new organisms, new humans, babies, for those of you that want a simpler term. And so this is a review of the various systems that are involved most, if not all, these systems we will review over the next 12 weeks. Now, despite the fact that we have all these systems, we only have 4 kinds of tissue, which is really quite remarkable. And the 4 kinds of tissue are pictured here. The first of these is nervous tissue, which is in the lower right corner. The nervous tissue is distinguished by its ability to conduct electrical impulses, and it is designed specifically for that purpose. And if we have the opportunity, I'll describe in some detail how that tissue does its job. The muscular tissue, shown on the lower left, is responsible for converting electrical impulses into motion. So the muscle is capable of a similar conduction of electrical impulses, but not only does it conduct electrical impulses, but it also is able to convert those electrical impulses into mechanical energy, which is used to move the body. The connective tissue, shown in the upper left, binds and connects around and between various organs. And then lastly, the epithelial tissue forms the linings, internal and external linings, as well as the skin. So when we look at, say, the inside of the mouth, the inside of the esophagus, the inside of the stomach, the inside of the lungs, the inside of the blood vessels, all of these are lined with tissue known as epithelial tissue.